Parent Entrepreneur Power, conversation number 176.
Parent Entrepreneur Power.
Wait, what? Entrepreneur Power!
This is the podcast for parents juggling the tough choices required for success in business while putting family first. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine Johnson, and I share the ups and downs and dirty truths of profits and potty training while chatting with successful parent entrepreneurs from all walks of life. Are you powered up? Hey there, Power Parents. Hello. Mary Catherine Johnson here. Welcome to the conversation. And today you get to hear me chat. I wish you could participate in these. I really do. Maybe we're going to have to start putting some of these up in, open up to the public on a Facebook Live, so to speak, or in Zoom or something like that, and invite some people to be able to ask questions. That would be so much fun. But today, I'm sorry, that's not available. We are going to chat with someone who's been on the show before. And I think you're going to be pretty excited about what she's going to talk about because she had some major changes in her business in the last few months. And she's going to share some of the lessons and the things that she learned through those. So from our episode 121, so if you want to hear her first conversation, parententrepreneurssuccess.com/PEP121, we get to welcome back Jessica Rhodes. She is the founder of Interview Connections. Hey there, Jessica. How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for having me back on.
You betcha. I know when we talked last time, you talked about kind of just jumping into this whole entrepreneurial journey and parenting and, who talks about planning? What are you going to plan for? You just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have a feeling this latest change that you've made in your business probably took a little more planning than that. So I can't wait to chat about that. But first off, just give us a recap as to Interview Connections. What do you do? And, how long you've been in business, just a real quick overview of that once upon a time story you gave us before.
Yeah, I'm the founder of Interview Connections. We're the leading guest booking agency for podcasters and guest experts, and we've been in business for about 4 years. And we bring entrepreneurs together for podcast interviews.
Yes. And 4 years. I didn't know that. I'm time flies so much when you're having fun. So you've been doing this for a while. That's fantastic. Yeah. So now when you first started this agency, when you first started this Interview Connections, you just started it out of your house and started connecting people and things like that. Take me through that process. How did you start adding staff? Because I know you can't do all of that yourself over the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started, I was essentially a virtual assistant. I did not incorporate my business for about a year. So as a virtual assistant, and then as I was growing and I reached that point of, okay, if I'm going to keep growing this business and increasing the, income and net profit, I need to add people to my team because I can't do it all. I mean, for a while I was doing everything myself. And when we first started, we were doing like show notes and graphics and scheduling. We were doing everything. But when I say I was doing everything because I didn't have a team. And once I hit that point of I needed help. The first person I added to my team was a virtual assistant. She was a woman who had experience, like she had a VA business. She was not new to, working from home or freelancing. Because at the time I thought, I'm new to this. I can't possibly teach someone what I need. Like I need someone that can come in and really kind of tell me what I need and help me create systems and organize things. So that was actually Angie Fisher, and I'm still connected with her. And her business has grown a lot over the years. And so I brought her on and she helped me really like streamline things and create efficiency and help me kind of figure out what team members I needed. And she also helped me with booking the interviews. But as far as like setting up Basecamp, all that stuff was so new to me. So I knew I needed to really invest in a experienced virtual assistant who could help me get everything set up. And then from there, my team members were virtual assistants that I found on elance.com, which I think is Upwork now. Mm-hmm. And I just put out a posting of what I was looking for. And my next few guest bookers were people that responded to my Elance posting. And most of them actually worked for me as contractors for 2.5 years. And then after that, I would add new guest bookers to my team by way of referral. A couple of the people that I found on Elance would then refer people that, were friends of theirs and were like, hey, I heard you're working from home. You've got the in on this freelance work. So then they would come to me. And so it was a lot of, referrals. People that, that were working for me would have friends that wanted to work from home. And so at our peak, we had 12 guest bookers, working at Interview Connections. And that's at that peak was when I thought, I can't have a virtual team anymore.
And why? Why did you think that? Why did you, what made you come to that conclusion?
So a couple of things. When you're growing a virtual team, specifically with independent contractors, there are kind of limits to how you can manage your team or not manage, because technically with contractors, you don't manage them. They're independent. They set their own schedule. They use their own computer and phone and internet and all that stuff, which is great. Like at first glance, you're like, great, that's the cheap route. But, there's also a limited amount of training that you can really do, especially when they're from home or in another state, And so there was just a lack of control that as my business was growing and I was getting more clients and attracting more higher end clients that I wanted to really make sure the quality of the service was as best as it could be, it was beginning to get challenging to do that with virtual team members who, they set their own schedule. I could not tell people you have to be working at this hour. That is not okay to do with virtual, virtual assistants and contract workers. And I really kind of hit this point where I was like, I need to have way more control over this process. And then also the flip side was that I wanted people around me. I wanted to have people in an office with me. I'm an extrovert. I wanted to be able to sit around a conference room table and brainstorm about things and run trainings in an office. And I wanted that for a long time. And I would have mentors and different business advisors say you don't want to do that. It's so expensive. You don't want employees. You're going to have the big office expenses and all that stuff. So I just listened to those people and I was like, okay, I guess I don't want to do that. But it would not go away. I kept having this nudge, this is what my dream business is, having a room full of energy and people working and talking together. And yes, there's expenses there. Obviously, I've bought everyone, I had to buy all the computers, and we'll get there. But there's always pros and cons. And for me to really fully enjoy my business, I realized I needed my team with me in person. So I made the decision in February of this year. And I remember I was at a conference, actually sitting through a session of contractor versus employee. And I was like, I need employees. And so I remember calling Margie, who I had one employee. I hired Margie as an employee in January. And so I remember calling her saying, Margie, we need everyone to be employees. And she's like, what?
What? What are you talking about?
That is where, and it was funny because I first thought we're going to do this all in a week. And it takes...
I'm sorry, but that's like saying your kid's going to grow from 0 to 10 in a week, right?
Exactly. Planning is not my strong suit. So that was really, really challenged me over these past few months.
Wow. Well, what I get during that whole story is that businesses are really created by, and the culture, the success really does depend on the top, the person at the top. So everything you've been saying, it doesn't mean that this is the only model for a successful business. Obviously, I know quite a few people who have virtual teams, very large virtual teams, who run very large businesses. But the culture, the entire business, and a business is its own entity, really, comes from the dreams, the goals, the work, the desires of the person at the top. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I really believe that, there's no one right way to grow a business. Like I said, I had a lot of people saying you don't want to have employees. And even today people are like, oh, you've got employees. I'm like, they're really pretty great. I like them a lot.
Yeah, they're not terrible people. They're not monsters. But you also don't live in California. California's
Right,
taxes
exactly.
are crazy.
Yeah, I live in Rhode Island. It's really affordable here. I have a 2,300 square foot office for $850 a month. It's actually
That's
pretty
crazy.
So,
I'm here to tell you that's crazy. California,
Yeah.
you
And
would not find that.
Exactly. And I have an HR specialist, and she is actually in California, but she can, consult business owners across the country. And she
Right.
said to me, she's like, Jessica, if you are in California, I would not support you, having employees. It would just be insane. It would be
Right.
insane with all of the taxes and the laws. But where I am, it's not that bad.
Right.
So
Right. No, I agree.
it makes sense. And like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do a business. I know, I totally agree with you. You can have a really successful service-based, agency company with a virtual team, but it's all about like what works best for that leader,
Right.
because for me, if I continued to grow the virtual team when it wasn't right for me and for my business, it wouldn't have gone well. But for somebody else, it might be, right.
Yeah, and that's, I love the way you put it. You needed that energy. You needed that team of people to sit around and fuel you, because we do get fueled in different ways. And I hear you. I hear you. I finally reached a point there. I've been 14 years in online business and basically head down doing the work for most of it and growing businesses. I'm on my fourth now. And it's I was fine with that, but then I looked up one day and went, I am sitting here by myself. I need people. I
Yes.
really need to talk to people, and
Yeah.
not just via Skype. Okay. I need to know that there's a human with skin sitting a few feet away from me, please.
Yeah.
Because, I just needed that. I got that fix, and then I came back to my computer and put my head down and went back to work, because that's all I needed to be fueled. And I was fine with that.
Yeah.
And I have people in my area that I've surrounded myself with that when I need a fix and they need a fix, we get together for coffee, right?
Exactly. I think it's so important. I was actually at Social Media Marketing World recently, and was talking to a friend of mine, and he owned a digital agency, built it to 7 figures, sold it, and now he, coaches other agency owners. And so he had the whole office with all the employees and everything, and he was listed as, best place to work 1 year. And he goes, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I would never do it again. So, what I tell people, I'm like, listen, I'm 29 years old. I've got all the energy in the world right now.
Yeah.
This is the time where I'm going to have that business with employees. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 10, 20 years from now, but like
Yeah.
just focus on today and what
Right.
makes sense for my life and what I want right now.
Right. And yes. And that's, it's stages, just like our kids. This podcast is all about parenting and entrepreneurship. And I guarantee you, well, how old are your kids now?
Yeah, so my daughter is going to be 2 in August. She's a year and a half, and then my son is 4. And I totally, it's very similar. Like there's so many correlations
Yeah.
for my business. I worked from home for a while, and then I had an office just myself outside the home. And like with my kids, they were home with me for a while. Then they had a nanny, and now they're in like preschool and daycare like 40 hours a week, and I'm fine with it. Like I just had to get to that place where I was ready to send them off.
I love the way you said that. And I'm fine with it.
Actually, I'm like, oh God, what? Did they
Thank
go to school
goodness.
yet?
How did I do that? How in the world did I do that? Oh, especially when they're teeny babies, that's the most work
Yeah.
at all. But yeah, it's all the stages, right? So we adapt, and some of us adapt differently to the different stages and have different expectations at those stages. That's why we create our own families and we have our own direction, and each family is headed by the heads of the family, and the family grows according to the dreams, hopes, and desires of the parents. It's
Yeah.
just the same thing with our business. So you just adapt and grow, and who knows what will happen. You're right. In 10 years, you have no idea how, I thought everything was wonderful with my first business, and I went for the first, probably, 4 or 5 years, just doubling revenues every year. And then 2008 hit. And I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect my revenues to drop by half each year for the next 3 years, and have to change and adapt and grow and outsource and do all these strange things that I never even dreamed of doing in response to what was happening in the world. So yeah, we have no idea, but adapting and growing to each of the stages. Even though we have and as long as you can hold on to those goals and you want that energy, then you will continue adapting your business to that energy, to those goals.
Yeah.
So tell me about your office and how many employees and all that stuff. So you were up to 12 virtual employees, and I'm sure each of
Right.
those were part-time. They weren't all working full-time
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, exactly. So we reached about, 12 independent contractor bookers, and yeah, they were essentially part-time. and, working anywhere from like 20 to 30 hours a week. And some might be upwards of 40 hours a week, but, part-time. And then now I have 5 employees who are booking agents and 1 full-time employee who oversees all of the bookings. So she's our chief connections officer. And so there's 6 full-time employees, and we realize, each full-time in-house employee they can do a lot more. They can work with a lot more clients than someone who is working from home because of all of the collaboration that they can do with their coworkers, the consistent support and accountability from management, right there with you every day. So while somebody working from home might be struggling on an account for a few days or for a week before connecting for another meeting with us, here it's like each day we can be putting our heads together and getting things done. So basically half the staff size, but we're still able to work with just as many clients.
Wow, that's fantastic. So now that you have this office, and I know I've seen you because we're friends on Facebook, and I follow you on Facebook, and I've seen you adding things and decorating and going out for lunch and having the team and taking pictures and all those fun things. So what's the next thing you're going to add to your office and your staff?
So I guess that's a good question. Right now, we've really, in the first month or so, really in the first couple of weeks, it was funny because you can kind of see the evolution. I should go back and find photos and just put it all in a row, because in the first, couple of weeks, it's not everyone had a desk, and there were people just working on chairs, and I was driving up to the Apple store every other day, buying a new computer, because we hired so many people in such a short amount of time to make the transition. Because just a side note, for me, the transition from the contractors to employees was such a mystery, because I didn't really want to tell anyone that I was making this transition, because I just didn't know how everyone would react. So I kind of waited a while before I told my virtual team that I wasn't going to be using them anymore, because I didn't want to risk having them just, okay, bye, I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
And then not having employees hired and trained. So I was walking on a tightrope for a while, trying to keep it cool. They're seeing people added into the office, kind of wondering what's going on. And then eventually the cat was out of the bag, and we were all right, full gear, let's do this.
Yeah.
And it worked out really well, and everyone was really understanding, and they're all doing great things. So yeah, the office now feels pretty set up. There's still stuff that I want to do decorating wise, but I think it's in a pretty good place. I'm actually kind of refreshing my logo a little bit. So I think once, and I'm going to, redesign my website. 'Cause I believe every year or two, you got to redo your website just because it's going to be dated. That's just how it goes. So
it's internet life. Yes.
And that's internet life. Yeah. every year or year and a half, your logo is going to look dated. So it's always good to refresh it. So that's what I'm working on right now. And some of the things I have written on my brainstorm whiteboard in my office here is, coming up with what are our company values and what is our mission statement and that kind of stuff. Because I don't know if you're familiar with Design Pickle. They're a graphic design agency. They're in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they're awesome. We've been using them. It's a flat rate for unlimited graphic design. This is not a commercial, but I'm I'm living it back here. I went to their offices, and I loved how they had on their wall these big poster sized framed printouts of their logo with their company values. And it was just such a cool way to help the employees stay connected to that main mission of the business. So that's one thing that I want to physically add into the office is getting our company, values and mission statement on the wall. Because right now the walls are still a little bare, but
moving into a new house, you look at white walls and you think, what can I put there? And you got all this stuff laying all over the place, and you have to sift through it and find out what fresh new thing do you want to have up there. We've basically furnished our office from IKEA, which is a great, pretty inexpensive way to do things. And I have this huge bookshelf, and I realized I don't have that many books. I thought I did, because my bookshelf was so small before, and now I have this huge bookshelf and there's not that many books. So, and I have another bookshelf that is literally just sitting in boxes, because I bought 2 thinking I need 2 bookshelves, but I don't.
um, so yeah, just kind of working to fill out the room, and people are starting to kind of personalize their workspaces and figuring out, it was fun for the first couple months. Just all the booking agents are figuring out like how they want the room arranged. We've done a few different arrangements over the weeks just to see what people like. Someone's like, I don't like having my back to the door, and so we switched that around.
Right.
So it's fun, just like figuring out what people like. And I got this table for the back of the office where the break room is, and nobody ate back there because it's dark. So we moved that anyway. But these are all the little things I never did when I worked from home or just had an office, on my own. So those are all the kind of like physical stuff that we spend time on now.
Wow. Well, and then you have all, those are, you could easily, so now let me ask you this. How do you look at your time now and your revenue in relation to time? Because I bet that changed a bit.
Yes. Okay. So there's a couple different aspects to this. So how do I look at my time now? I have a 9-to-5 job now. And that's a big change. I mean, before, I got into my office 9:30, 10. And if I was early, cool. If I was late, no big deal. But I have employees that are scheduled to be here at 9. So I need to be here at 9 to open up. It is, we are on a schedule. And, we close at 5. And so, I mean, sometimes I'll leave at 4:30 because, Margie will work till 5. But I'm pretty much here 9 to 5. But that's also nice because when I go home, then I'm not working. Before I would have contractors that would work at all hours of the day. So I would get Slack messages at nighttime, or I'd be on email in the evening. But now, so my time is, 9 to 5. And then, kind of how that relates to revenue. Well, I still have a set salary for myself, but moving offices and moving to employees, and I made a really big investment in myself and in my business by doing a coaching day with Allie Brown recently, which was really great. Yeah. But the timing of everything is, I don't know. Sometimes you can't properly plan all this stuff. So net profit has not been great because of so many changes. That's my really elegant way of saying, it's financially challenging to make these transitions. And, it's all obviously in the plan this is all stuff we're doing now to then have much higher profits and higher revenue. But it's you have to go through a couple months in the red before you can, get higher.
Yes. And that changes, doesn't it? I mean, you're looking at now, thank you for using the word net profit, because most of the time, most of us who work from home, and we don't really take into consideration other costs associated with that. So whatever revenue, we just take out the expenses that we had, whether it's programs that we use or subscriptions that we have of whatever kind to run our business. And those are usually pretty minimal costs. But this is really an investment. This is truly an investment in your business. And so you have to look at, you no longer have just those minimal costs. Now your net profit is lower because of that choice, but it basically is the stepping stone for growth beyond what you would have had before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this whole transition has been, it's a little like almost every investment you make, it's a rolling of the dice, it's these are all changes that I am fully confident, or else I would not have done something so massive. But they're all changes that will lead to a much stronger foundation, much more efficiency, higher quality, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, I have operated at a loss for the past 2 or 3 months. So that's not fun, but it's kind of that's just what has to happen to get to the point where we can kind of be profitable in this new way that we do things.
Right. And then take a leap beyond just the profitable. Then you can leap even further. But that's the way it runs. And there's where we get into an issue with many of us who, for those investments, we don't necessarily build up the cash reserves to do them. We might do them on credit. And that's where we get kind of scary.
Right.
You know, that's a scary place. Please try not to do that if you can at all help it.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband's my CFO, and he's really good. Just as a note for business owners listening, if you are not good with money, like it is really worth having someone that is good at kind of managing the finances and doing like, and I totally agree with you that there are investments that you should make in your business. And if you don't have cash, like if it's a really strong investment, like I think it's okay to use business credit wisely. But then again, like there were a lot of expenses that I cut. Like if like I've been paying for, for example, like a social media, like a scheduling software. And then I kind of looked at things and I'm like, I don't get clients from social media. Do I need to pay $50 a month to post on social media to people that are not clicking, or these are not where my leads are? So like I cut that. So I kind of did the whole like Dave Ramsey money makeover thing. And I went through and I just kind of started like getting rid of like little expenses that seemed like good ideas at the time and like weren't that big expenses here and there. But I kind of just wanted to slim down to the minimum of what we really needed. And then build out from there. So, it's funny because I said to Jamie, my husband, I'm like, I'm looking in, we just switched our phone system. And I said, I'm also looking into Call Ruby. It's this really cool business. They're out in Portland, Oregon. And it's basically like somebody calls your phone, your business line, and a real person answers. And then they would direct the call to you. So if you don't have like a receptionist in the office, it's a cool service. He's like, how much is that? I think it's $300 or $400. He goes, well, if you'd like to see the P&L report, and that'll give you a real sobering. And I was like, okay, I'll put off the Call Ruby for a
Never mind.
I'll go with the auto attendant until we can, till we're a little bit more profitable again.
Exactly. And we won't even get into the whole issue because my husband is also my CFO. So he's a tax accountant. He's Mr. Business Guy. So we won't even get into the whole issue of the fact that husbands should never tell their wives what to do. It's just the way it is. If you want to have
he always says, he says, listen, like he says, it's like your business and it's you, I'm not going to say no, but I'm just giving you the facts. Like here are the numbers. I'm like, okay,
I know. And I'm teasing you. I know it's a dynamic that
it is. We've been hard over the years. We've been counseled. Like
it is very, because all of the baggage comes up and all of the familial stuff comes up. And so, if you work on that communication and you're able to, and basically the way we worked through that in the beginning was, if I had a CFO who was not my husband, he probably would not have said that to me. How would you feel if my actual CFO that I was paying as a separate person that's not my husband actually said that to me? How would you feel? And, he was like, whoa, I didn't even think about that. And he said the same thing to me, would you actually say that to your CFO if it wasn't me? And I'd be like, yeah, probably not. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is working with family, working with people that you're really familiar with. But wow, lots of changes, lots of growth, lots of wonderful things. How are your interviews going? Because I know I get reports from your team on certain interviewees. They know that there are certain parameters that I have to have. It has to be a parent and they have to be an entrepreneur. And that can be an author. Authors are certainly entrepreneurs nowadays. But parents are the minimum requirement. If they're not a parent, don't even pitch me because they're not coming on the show. So how's that going? How is all the growth going? And
it's going really, really well. The thing that I'm excited about doing now, which is, it's funny how certain things seem like such a bad idea and then in a different time, they're the perfect idea. So what we're doing with our new clients now, and I've kind of like restructured our services as we do client approved bookings. So we're spending just a lot more time on the front end with our clients to review shows or to review potential. Well, we've always done that with our host clients, where, we review guests before we pitch them or request them. We review shows before we pitch the guest to the show. So, everyone sees it as a really good fit. And that's been going well. And it's exciting to just work more closely with clients too, and more closely with hosts. That's, what we like doing over the years of pitching and booking is I encourage my booking agents, if you connect with a host and you book a client on their show, like, get to know them, ask what kinds of guests they want to have, so we can at least, if we do pitch them again, which we probably will, unless they tell us to take a hike, we can make a note in our, we use High Rise CRM. So if a host replies to us and says, this is my criteria, we put that into their profile so any future booking agent can see that. And we can always tailor our pitches as best as possible. So yeah,
Yes.
it's going well.
That's wonderful. And isn't it so true in your business, just like any other business, as you evolve, as you get more engagement with your clients and the hosts that you work with, you adapt your services.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, 100%. And that's like one thing that's also gone along with this transition of the team is also transitioning of the services. So I kind of felt like after a while, it was starting to feel like a commodity, especially with a lot of other people starting podcast interview booking services. People are starting to price shop, or they're starting to compare, how much is a booking over here and how much is a booking here? And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't want to, I'm not a commodity, because it's not the booking. It's so much of the client experience that you have with the service. It's, all the stuff that goes around it, how much time do you get on the phone with your agent, or how much consulting are you getting in addition to the actual interview booking and all that stuff. So I really wanted to get away from like a per booking thing. So we changed our services. I took down, I had a price chart on my website before with here are the different packages, and here's the price, and here's the check marks of everything you get. And now I just say we have plans starting at $500 a month, and a little bit about our business, and apply here. And then people are still applying without knowing all the details. And then once somebody applies and they look like a good fit, that's when I start the conversation of, okay, here's how our service works. Here's the details of the setup month, and here's how the program works. Let's figure out what's the right fit for you. And so it allows me to work closely with prospective clients and make sure that we're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for us. Right. So that's another big change, is going away from the whole just here's the price chart on the website, like it or not.
Yeah. Well, and that's, and here again, just like having the energy of people around you, the structure of the company starts at the top. So you were able to look at that and go, I am not a commodity. My business is not a commodity. We are not selling t-shirts. Okay.
Right.
We're not just selling this stuff. We are providing a very unique service for people and taking people through an experience. And when you do that, it changes your whole mindset, and it changes the mindset of the people that shop through you. And so the people who are just looking for the lowest price are not your customers.
Exactly.
So they can go and find the lowest price anywhere, and they are not hurting your feelings. It has nothing to do with you. It's the way it is.
Yeah. And I also got really clear. I had this big light bulb moment, and I got really clear on who our ideal client is. And I think that's so important, to get to know who is the ideal client. And it's not just, age range, male, female, industry, because it could be a wide, we have a few different industries that we work really well with, but I kind of had this light bulb yesterday where I realized, okay, my ideal client is somebody who's using podcast interviews as a brand building strategy, because as you know, with podcasting, it's a long-term strategy. You really can't do it for a short amount of time and expect to see a lot of results. You have to be committed to it. And I had this call with a client who I thought was, I saw her application. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's perfect. I love her expertise. I am fully confident, and I told her this, we would have a lot of success in getting you on shows, and I know this would be a great fit. But she was like, okay, well, how soon do you think I could see the return on investment? And I said, listen, I would be doing you a disservice. It would be unethical for me to promise an ROI in a certain amount of time. We've had clients that make a sale and get a new client in their first 4 interviews, and some people do it for 6 months before seeing anything. It really depends, but this is not something that you just do till you see an ROI, then you leave. This should be a regular part of your marketing, long term. And so I kind of had this light bulb moment where I really, my service is not for people that need to see a new client as soon as possible, because those are the most nightmare people to work with, because they're constantly
yes.
I don't know if this is good working. They're frantic. They're in cash flow mode. And I've got other clients, meanwhile, who I ask them, okay, why are you doing interviews, and what's the ROI? And they're like, this helps me be more of an abundant thinker. I love connecting with new people and learning more about them and myself, and that helps me be better in my business. They're thinking so far from I need a new sale. They're doing so well in their business that they see this as a brand building, mindset improving method. And I'm like, oh, those are the kinds of people. So that's the other thing that, over this transition is getting super crystal clear on the right clients for me. And so like, as I was, transitioning from virtual team to employees, I also called a whole bunch of clients and, I didn't fire them, but I said our prices were going up quite a bit and that kind of weeded them out naturally. Nice people, but it's like, I think it's so important once you get to a certain point in your business to work with the clients that are the best fit for you and vice versa.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. All right. So Power Parents, I have to stop right here and just digest this for a minute. Okay. Jessica has been in business 4 years. And she just had another light bulb moment about her quote avatar. So don't stress, okay? You don't have to have everything dialed like that from minute one, and you can't move forward until you have that. That is a myth. Your avatar, quote unquote, I call it something different, but that your ideal client, and I so much prefer ideal client, it makes so much more sense, but your ideal client will evolve as you do. It's like saying you have a nanny and that nanny is going to stay with you for the rest of your life, for the rest of your kid's life. That isn't going to happen. Your kid changes and grows. Things happen. School happens. Do you go to a private school, public? I mean, so many factors will adapt as your life changes. So don't stress about it, but keep working that. Keep tweaking who your ideal client is, because I'll tell you, that is the number one aspect of your business that will make or break your success. Would you agree, Jessica?
I totally agree. My ideal client when I first started is the world's difference from who my ideal client is today. So I think that's so true. And the other thing is, as you grow in your business, also not only looking at who your ideal client is, who do you enjoy working with the most, who's the most profitable kind of client, but where are you getting clients to? Right. Because we realize that majority of our clients come by way of us going to conferences and exhibiting at conferences, having a booth. So we get a lot of clients there. And then referral. So happy clients introduce us to their friends and that's good. And so it goes back to the whole like social media and a lot of my content marketing. And there was a long time I was doing weekly blogs, weekly podcasts, weekly videos, like insane on the content marketing front. And I still do my podcasts and I still do videos and blogs like kind of on a much more rare basis. But I realized I don't really generate leads from my online marketing. Right. I generate leads from, delivering a great service and getting referrals and then going out to conferences. So now we're just honing in on really just optimizing the lead gen strategies that work best for us and just, again, honing in on the ideal clients and not kind of, it's really easy to look and see, oh, well, this person's blowing it up with webinars. I'm going to start doing webinars. Oh, yes. Like I did that. I'm like, weekly webinars, exactly what works for John Lee Dumas. So I'm going to do weekly webinars. And I did weekly webinars and I got squat because my ideal clients don't want to sit through a webinar. They want me to do it for them. So I think it's so important to remember that what works for somebody else might not work for your business and your market.
Right. Oh my gosh, yes. And you have to be open to that instead of just following what other people do. And yes, if you do follow that and say, well, maybe this is it, and you try it for a little bit, and if it doesn't work, just go on to the next thing. If you don't, it's not like, go ahead.
And learn like why it didn't work, right? So I did the webinars because I thought it would be like a really great way for me to connect with people. And I actually did have people coming to the webinars and interacting with me. And I just remember, I can't remember who said it, but somebody on the webinar was like, Jessica, I love you and I love this content and I aspire to be able to afford your services one day. And I was like, well, that's flattering, but it ain't paying the bills right now.
That's right.
Like
call me when you've aspired.
Exactly. So like, that's really nice to hear. And it's nice to provide value to an audience that loves your content. But at the end of the day, like I'm not doing this to be famous or popular. I'm doing this to make money to support my family, and grow a business. So it's just kind of important to know like where to spend your time and where to put your attention.
So it sounds like this move is all culminating and happening and adapting and growing and really even it's you're creating the same thing you created when you first started your business and had your kids, and it just happens. Even though yes, you've planned this move, but this move has made other things just happen that you didn't even know existed yet.
Yeah. Now that there were a couple weeks there where it was so insane, and I actually journaled about it because I'm like, this week and every single day is so full of insanity that I feel like I need to write it down so I can remember how much is happening each day. So there were some really insane days. And now that things have, like, the storm has kind of passed and we're just like getting back on our feet and kind of doing, like, seeing, okay, this is the new normal. And when I get times to just like reflect a little bit, that's when I get these light bulbs. Like, it was yesterday and I was cleaning up the kitchen after dinner and I was like, people that want brand building and not lead generation. Like, I just thought, I listed out because I'll be redoing my website. So I'm doing some like copywriting brainstorming. So I was going through all these old client applications and seeing why people applied to work with us, and like brand exposure, lead generation. So I'm just writing all these words down to start thinking about like how to message what we do. And brand exposure was one of the most common ones. And I always just thought it was like brand exposure, lead gen, they're all the same thing. And then I had this moment where I'm like, oh, they're different. So when you go through really big changes, I think it's important to just allow yourself to reflect on the changes and see what comes out of it.
Quietness, yes, being quiet and still and just looking internally and letting things wash over you and see what sticks. It's like a wave that crashes onto the sand and a shell is deposited. So that shell is what you grab onto and go, oh, and there's a reason it was deposited. And so go with it. Wow. Yeah. Jessica, this has been a blast. I'm so glad we were able to chat again and have so many wonderful realizations. And Power Parents, I know there are specific nuggets that I want you to go back and listen to that Jessica's talked about in this journey over the last 4 years that you can use where you are right now. And I so hope you're able to do that. And Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing them with us.
Thank you. This was a blast to be able to reflect and share my experiences with your listeners.
To get powered up for your day, just go to parententrepreneur.power.com and listen to any one of the over 100 episodes we've had so far with amazing entrepreneurs just like you. It might just help you feel like a grown-up again.